This is a powerful, powerful workshop because I will tell you the majority of restaurant owners, when I talk to them, I talk to thousands of them. When I talk to restaurant owners, a lot of times they say, I just don't have any time. Donald, do you understand? I'm so busy. I'm too busy. I'm so busy. I'm so busy. But when we really look and we do a time audit on their time, the reason that they're kind of always in kind of like, running around like a hamster on a giant hamster wheel is the sense that they keep retraining people a lot. So what I want to do is I want to help you break through this so we actually get a really good kind of the science of training and how I can help you upskill your staff by giving you a solid format. You know me, I love to teach in framework. So we're going to teach a framework within a framework about how to train your team better. All right. Because most business problems are, what do we always say? Oh, business problems are, of course, people problems. And those people problems are usually communication problems. So the rules for today, like always, number one, have some fun. Number two, take notes. Research has shown if you write stuff down in your own handwriting, you are 70% more likely to remember the information 30 days from now, and that's my goal. Number three, take action. Please, if you don't apply what you've learned, then you really haven't learned anything. Remember that knowledge is not power. Application of knowledge is. And then every once in the presentation, you're going to hear me say those famous words, hashtag WTSD. What does that mean? Of course, it means write this shit down. These are the gold nuggets. These are little things I want you to take away and remember. Now, if this is your first time on the webinar series, type in the chat if it's your first time in the webinar series. The first time we've ever been on a webinar together. Type in the chat, yes, 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 if you have. All right. I got some AI people in there, and I love it when the AI show up. Love it when the AI is taking over the world, man. I'm telling you,
Yeah, that's
Luke.
pretty good. That's pretty good timing.
I don't know what we're gonna do. Yeah, yeah. I'm taking notes for so and so. Yeah. Well, I am Donald Burns. I am the restaurant coach. I would call myself a recovering restaurant owner. I've also been a consultant for big multi-billion-dollar brands, U.S. Foods, Cisco Foods, Shamrock Foods. I'm also a chef. I was a chef after I sold my restaurants. I was a chef with Wolfgang Puck for a number of years. Went around the country opening restaurants for Wolfgang Puck. I'm also a restaurant investor. I'm also a former U.S. Air Force pararescueman. It's kind of a unique thing because this month is actually the 40th anniversary of my pararescue class graduation. 40 years ago, yes, I am that old. 40 years ago, I graduated from pararescue training in the Air Force. It was probably the most, I'm telling you, my pararescue experience taught me more about peak performance and high level teamwork than anything else in the world. And you might not know this, but when you get coaching with me, you get a little bit of that special operations mindset, a little bit of that grit, a little bit of that fortitude, a little bit of that resilience kind of built into the coaching program. And also, I'm probably most well known for the books I have out, the famous probably for the Your Restaurant Sucks trilogy. Your restaurant sucks, your restaurant still sucks, your restaurant culture sucks. And my latest book came out this January. It's called Savage Restaurant Success. Now, like a lot of people, when I opened my first restaurant, I had been in the restaurant industry for 15 years. I opened my first restaurant when I was 30. And I thought that just knowing how to run a restaurant was all you needed to be successful in the restaurant business. And I learned the hard way that did not work. This is actually a picture of my very first restaurant, small little place, 50 seats. And if it wasn't for me swallowing my ego, my pride, and my denial about how bad things really were, I probably would have went under. But luckily, a businessman who is a regular at my restaurant reached out to me and said he wanted to have a talk. He offered me a lifeline. And that lifeline came in this kind of analogy. He said, Donald, if I gave you a 3-digit lock and I said, open the lock, could you open the lock? And I said, no. His name was Peter. I said, no, Peter, I can't. He said, but what if I gave you the combination? What if I told you the combination to restaurant success? I was like, oh my God, that'd be awesome. That would be great. He said, yeah, well, here's the thing. I can give you the combination, but I know what you're going to do. You're going to put them in the wrong order. And I'm going to tell you the right order they go in. And when you get these combinations, these three things in the right order, it will change the game of how your restaurant runs, how you see your restaurant too. We call this the 3P framework. The 3P framework is the foundational framework. Now, I teach a lot of frameworks in my coaching programs. Everything I teach is a frame because I find frameworks are beautiful in the sense that I can look at a framework, I can see where I'm hurting at, and I can actually understand how to open it and get it going in the right direction, but just by following the frame. So this is the combination. It is always people, then product, and then process. You will try to change the order around. I've tried to change the order around when I first started coaching. It did not work. This model like this combination of people, product, process works every single time. It's worked for almost just a little over 2,900 restaurants now in 23 different countries. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. It doesn't matter what your economy is, because what we talked about this in the very first slide, all business problems are people problems. This framework helps you get those problems under control, and it gives you a roadmap to follow. If I gave you a map and you don't follow it and you get lost, that's on you. But if I give you the roadmap and I tell you the tools you need to use to get there, you can find success. Restaurant success is not rocket science. It's just people science. Now, over the last 14 years, I have refined this program to an art form as well. It is always people, product, process. In the people part, we're going to talk about strengths, your strengths. What are you good at? What are you bad at? Your mindset. We're talking about culture. Talk about hiring. After we have that framework locked in and loaded up, now we can move to the next combination, which is product, food cost, then menu, and then marketing. Why do I put it in this order? Because most restaurants don't know their food cost. If I asked 1,000 restaurants in a room, 10 people would know what theoretical food cost is. This is like the lowest hanging fruit you got, my friends, is that if you understand what theoretical is and you understand what your actual is, and then you create an action plan to close that gap, you can usually add 5 points right on the board right away. The average restaurant in the United States, the gap between theoretical and actual food cost is 9%. It's a lot of money on the table that you don't need to leave on the table. Every month someone calls me and says, Donald, my food cost is 30%. Is that good? And I'll say, I don't know. And they'll say, what do you mean you don't know? I'll say, let me ask you a question. What's your theoretical food cost? And then they say, I don't know. And I'll say, that's the problem. Because if your theoretical food cost is 28, 30% food cost is actually good. But if your theoretical is 21, you got some work to do. You're leaving some money on the table. And I want you to pick up all the money that you deserve. Now, today's workshop is going to talk about a couple different areas. It's kind of two areas in the Restaurant Accelerator. A little bit in the talent attraction method. We're going to talk a little bit about training. And then also in the restaurant track, I give you another kind of dose of training, how to set this stuff up. Today, I'm going to give you the high level view. This is called the 30,000 foot view. If you want to dig down deeper, get to that ground level where you actually get the tools, the training, and the coaching to actually implement the stuff we're going to talk about today, then you want to talk to someone on the restaurant growth team about the Restaurant Accelerator coaching program. So let me ask you a question. Are your staff trained to be superstars, or are they just kind of winging it and it's costing you money? Most people train until the staff gets it right. Here's a mantra you want to adopt. Hashtag WTSD. Write this shit down. Never train your team until they get it right. Train them until they can't get it wrong. You got to train them until they can't get it wrong. That's the most powerful thing I can tell you. You have to train them until they cannot get it wrong. That was a game changer. And that's a game changer for all my clients in the Accelerator program when they just push and push people until they just can't get it wrong. A lot of the time when you find yourself losing time, always stuck on that hamster wheel, running back and stuff like that, doing stuff over and over again, a lot of times you're retraining the team. Where if you just really invested in a solid training program up front, you would find that you don't have to go back and retrain people every single month or every single week or every single day. Anybody ever feel like you're just kind of running around like a chicken with their head cut off some days. Some week just feels like all it is constantly just putting out fires, going back, telling people this, doing that again, telling people, oh no, don't do that, don't do this. I need you to do this. Oh no, not like that. We spend a lot of time retraining. You can get a really good, a huge chunk of your life back if you stop the retraining model and do a proper training model. Right. Start off with a quote. It's one of my favorite ones. Henry Ford. The only thing worse than training your employees and having them leave is not training them and having them stay. Screenshot that and put it somewhere you can remember. The only thing worse than training your employees and having them leave is not training them and having them stay. It's the worst thing in the world. I will tell you, I did this myself. All right. I had like, and we talk about that 3P framework, the people part, the first part is usually mindset and strengths. My mindset was that, and tell me if you've experienced this too, if you feel this way. My mindset was like, if I train people down, if I train them, they're just going to take that experience and go down the street and get another job and get more money. And I'm not going to train them for somebody else. So I'm just going to keep them stuck. Most outdated mindset in the world. It's far worse to have someone who's not trained properly stay inside your organization and destroy your restaurant from the inside. It's horrifying seeing restaurants closed due to COVID, due to the economy, due to markets changing. The neighborhood just goes to shit. And it's just it's a waste. It's a war zone. It's horrible, horrifying. It is like soul crushing for me to see a restaurant go under because of their team. That's the worst thing in the world. Okay. You have to understand that this is going to be the game changer. If you want to, if you really want to, make more money, if you want to finally get your life back from your restaurant running and owning you, there's only one thing you have to do. Okay. And the only thing is this: if you really want to, if you really, really want to win this game, the restaurant game, I'm telling you right now, if you really want to win this thing, you have to really, really focus on training. So I will tell you, working with thousands of restaurants, that this is the game changer. Money. And if you want more money, train your team. But train your team properly. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Today, we're going to talk about the science of training. Right? The science of training. Here we go. So in the restaurant world, in this dramatic restaurant, whoops, sorry. Went a little too fast there. Hit that little button a little too fast. The success of your restaurant hinges not only on the quality of your food and ambiance, which we think so, but also on the skills and performance of your team. You need to invest in upskilling your team. What I call is like training, really like seriously training your team is a powerful strategy that's going to not only enhance your guest satisfaction, it's going to streamline your operations, it's going to reduce waste, it's going to increase efficiency, and that right there will boost profitability. But here's the thing: effective training is not just about instructing the staff. It's not about just telling them what to do and then turning them loose and hope they got it. Hashtag write this down. Hope is not a strategy. It's about leveraging the success of science. The science of learning. You got to leverage the science of learning and ensure that the knowledge is not just absorbed, but they actually get it. Here's something I want you to remember. Anytime someone on your team is not doing what you want, it's two sides of a coin. So if we took a coin, there's always the heads and the tails. Well, in life and in your restaurant, everything that doesn't get done right is two sides of a coin. Hashtag write this down. The first side of the coin is they don't know. Now, I always have this assumption. If they don't know, I say it's my fault as the owner, as the leader, that I did not train them properly. I did not train them properly. I did not explain or clarify my expectations, my standards, or give them a good deadline or time when I wanted it done. I assumed. And hashtag, remember this, assumption is the mother of all F-ups, right? You do not want to assume. So the first side of the coin, if someone, like I'm working with Luke and I have Luke, I tell Luke to go sweep the floor, and he sweeps the floor and he comes to me and says, hey, Donald, I'm done. I swept the floor. And I go look and it doesn't look like the job I wanted done. I can't be mad at Luke. I have to look at that first side of the coin and say, well, if they didn't do it right, he doesn't know how to clean it properly. I probably just assumed he knew how to sweep a floor, which is stupid again. But all right, I'll take it. It's my fault. Now, if I go out of my way to train my team, to communicate my expectations, my standards, show them multiple times, make sure that they understand it, that they are trained until they can't get it wrong. Now, if Luke doesn't sweep the floor properly, it's the other side of the coin. He doesn't care. Hashtag write this down. You can't make people care. I know you think you can. I know you all want to. I know everyone thinks they're Tony Robbins and can motivate people to walk on fire, but you can't. I wish you could, but you can't. If they don't care, it is your duty, your obligation, your responsibility in your restaurant to replace them. Okay. Now, let's talk about culture and let's talk about learning. So I have that thing. You've probably seen it in one of the webinars before, the restaurant success pyramid. All restaurants in any market in the world are divided into 4 categories. There's bad, there's good, there's great, there's outstanding. Well, each restaurant level has a corresponding culture with it. Bad restaurants have a toxic culture. That's where the team runs the restaurant their way. It's no good. Good restaurants, where most restaurants start with me at, that's the majority of restaurants. 60% of all restaurants are good. They have a training culture, and a training culture is when you train people on the front end. It's like Luke starts with me. I do the onboarding paperwork. Then I tell him, hey, go follow Michael around for 3 days, do what he does, say what he says, and you're good. All right. You kind of wash your hands of them. You kind of turn them over to someone else to do some shadow training. That's a training culture. No continuing education, no kind of further development of their skills, their kind of abilities, nothing like that. Next level up is where you want to start pushing for. This is where we get to this learning level. Learning cultures have this mindset of 1% improvement. We want to be 1% better today than we were yesterday. This is where everyone wants to grow. Everyone wants to learn. Everyone wants to develop. Now, as you transcend culture levels, as you go from training to learning, you will lose people because not everyone wants to grow and learn and develop. Some people are very, very happy with the status quo. It's called mediocrity. And you have probably a few people that are addicted to mediocrity. I will tell you without a shadow of a doubt that mediocrity does not pay the bills. Mediocrity puts you in survival mode. And you're basically always going to have your head just above water. You have a good month and you think about franchising. Then you have a bad month, you think about selling it all. Okay. If you can relate, type in the chat, that's me. All right. On the good months, you think, oh my God, this is going to be great. I could have a whole franchise of these things all across the world. And on the bad months, you're like, I wonder if I just sold it right now, would that work? Yeah, it might. Okay. And then after we have that learning culture, we elevate to that leadership level. The leadership level is where the team runs the restaurant your way, not their way. There's also 4 stages of training. We're going to talk about what's called adult learning theory. This is important to know because you have to understand that people learn different ways. And when we're talking about learning, 4 stages of learning. Stage 1 is at the bottom. It's called unconscious incompetence. Basically, I don't even know what I suck at. It's kind of like being foolish, being blind. You don't know that you suck, right? Next level up, stage 2 is called conscious incompetence. Uh-oh, now I know what I suck at. For some of us, that's doing P&Ls. For some of us, that might be marketing. For some of us, might be cooking. Some of us might be costing out recipes. Then you move up to stage 3, conscious competence. That's where I can do the task with some effort. I have to think about it. It's like, you're tying your shoes, and like when you first learn to tie your shoe, like at first you don't even know what shoes are. So you're at stage 1. Then you realize, oh, a shoe, but it has these laces. I don't know how to tie laces. That's stage 2. Then you realize you can tie the shoe, but it takes a lot of concentration. You really got to focus, like put that thing around, put it through the rat hole, and then you pull it tight. You got to really think about it. And then you finally elevate to stage 4, unconscious competence, where you just do it without thinking. The goal with any kind of solid training program is to elevate people from stage 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. That's the goal of adult learning. And everyone goes through all stages. Not anybody jumps in and automatically jumps in stage 4. It is always a process. In the coaching world, we call this crawl, walk, run. I don't say to Luke, hey, Luke, man, hey, tomorrow, dude, we're running a marathon. Show up at 5:30. We're going to run this marathon without any training. You have to teach them the basics, and then you have to build on top of it. Now, here's another valuable tool for you to understand. There are 4 learning modalities everyone learns in. You have a primary one, and then you have a secondary and third one. Visual learners. Anybody who's a visual learner, you like to see things demonstrated. You like to read. You like videos. You like books. You love written instructions. You like visual stuff. Okay. Auditory learners like to hear things. Sometimes a lot of people can just watch someone do it and pick it up. That's a visual learner. Some people need to see it, but also maybe need to hear it more. These are people who love audiobooks. When you love audiobooks or you love things like that, you like to learn by listening. That's auditory. Verbal instructions, right? Audiobooks, great example. Kinesthetic learners in the far right corner, they think and learn best when they're moving. These are people who need to touch and feel it. A lot of times in the kitchen, most of the training we do is called kinesthetic, in the sense that Luke can watch a video on knife skills, and he can understand basically what a knife is in the kitchen and what the knife cuts are. But until he gets in there and grabs that knife, puts it in his hand, feels the weight of it, understands what it feels like to have something on the other end of that knife besides his finger, he needs to learn that way. That's a kinesthetic learner. A lot of people rather do it, or watch and then repeat it. That's a kinesthetic learner. And then there's tactile learners. Tactile learners is probably my favorite for too. That's why in the beginning of the calls, you always hear me say, make sure to take notes, write stuff down in your own handwriting. That's for all my tactile learners. Because if you write stuff down in your own handwriting, you're more likely to recall the information. That's for all the tactile people, right? Now, and when you draw or when you doodle, like when I'm doing coaching calls, I have a tablet pad right beneath me in front of me. When I'm doing coaching calls, I am writing all the time. I am a tactile learner and a tactile coach, in the sense I like to write and draw as I'm doing stuff. I like to use visual aids to help you absorb information better. So I'm a big, huge tactile learner. Now, looking at these 4 modalities, which one would you say is your primary one? Type in the chat, which one is your primary one? Are you a visual learner? Are you auditory? Are you more kinesthetic? Or are you more tactile? Type in the chat, which one is your primary learning modality? This is very, very important, right? Tactile, yes. Tactile visual, yes. You usually have one primary and then a second one. I would say mine is I'm tactile, but I'm visual and auditory. And then finally I'll be kinesthetic, yeah. Here's the thing I will tell you, and this is also a downside, but it's also a great awareness tool. Sometimes the way you learn is the way you teach. And that's why coaching programs have to make sure that they're hitting all 4 modality lessons. Like when we coach, we have to hit the visual learners, the auditory, the kinesthetic, and the tactile learners. You will teach or you will train at your restaurant in the primary modality that you like to learn. So it is a great example. I have some people in our accelerator program that are very, very visual learners. They love workbooks. They love training manuals. They can read stuff and get it right away. So they hand their team out just training manuals, and then they don't understand. How come they don't get it, Donald? It's because you're training in your modality. Your training program has to touch on all modalities. That's a well-rounded training program. I'm going to show you how to set up where you can actually hit all 4 modalities all the time, and you're going to get a lot better buy-in. You're going to get a lot better results, and you're going to have a lot less mistakes when you train people the right way. To do this, we're going to dig deeper into this science, which means understanding adult learning principles. Okay. To design an effective training program, you have to understand how adults learn. Unlike children, adults have a whole bunch of shit they bring with them. They have baggages. They have baggage. They have their own experiences. They have their own biases. They have their own motivations to want to learn, grow, and develop. And you've probably heard people say this before. I have people all the time in the restaurant business. I wasn't good in school. I just wasn't a good learner. I really sucked at school. I wasn't a good learner. In the 3P framework, that's a very part of the first 3P framework, mindset. Mindset contributes to 80% of the problems that are in your restaurant right now. Either your mindset or someone on your team, their mindset. Outdated belief systems, which we call BS, right? You have to understand adult learning is really, really different than child learning, because I have to overcome a lot of this baggage, these things they bring with them. Have you ever trained someone on your team that came from another restaurant and they said these words? Well, that's not how we did it at the other restaurant. Anybody relate? I get that all the time. That's not how we did it over there. Yeah, all the time. Oh, that's not how we did it over there. Yeah, I know. That's why you don't work there anymore. It's like, yeah, we're going to do it this way. Yeah. Adult learning theory. Number one, it has to be self-directed. That means they have to have some kind of way to study on their own. Most adults prefer to take responsibility for their learning, right? If it's set up properly. It has to be experience rich. That means you have to bring a wealth of experience shapes their learning. When you bring experience, when you talk about things you've learned over the years and you explain the why you do it, not just tell them what to do, but explain why you do it, it's going to change everything. It also needs to be a little bit goal oriented. They need to see there's relevance to what they're learning. You have to connect the dots for people. Do not assume, please, do not assume they know why to do it or how to do it. That's your job as the owner and the leader to explain the who needs to do it, what needs to be done, why it needs to be done, when it needs to be done, right? And how it needs to be done. And then it has to be practical. They have to learn things that they can learn immediately. That goes back to break it down. Make it simple. Start with the fundamentals and then build on it. Crawl, walk, run. Most training programs, if I looked at most people, if I said, send me your outline for your training program, they are basically run programs. Everyone is expected to be up to speed in a matter of days, and it doesn't work like that. People learn at different levels. And then you got to have some motivators in there. You have to be motivated by factors like personal growth and job satisfaction. There are 6 human needs. We talked about this in one of the webinars earlier. There's 6 human needs everyone has. Everyone has certainty. Everyone has uncertainty. Everyone has significance, like I'm special, I matter. You also have a need for love and connection. You have a need for growth and also for contribution. We got to make sure we're hitting these needs with our training program. And the best training program in the planet that I've ever developed, and this is the one I used. This thing is guaranteed gold. It's called the 70-20-10 methodology. And I'll tell you why it works. Because we hit all the modalities. We hit all the learning modalities. So there's nothing left to chance. Now, if you take 70, 20, and 10 and add them up, what's the number? Let's do some quick math real quick. 70, 20, 10, add it up. What percentage is that? It's pretty easy. 100%. Now, when I break down this training methodology, you're going to see why your training program is where it's at and why you can't get people to do what you need them to do all the time consistently. If nothing else, you start adopting this 70-20-10 methodology, your life will change. You'll get time back. You'll have fewer mistakes. You'll make more money. You'll have less drama on the team, and the team will actually enjoy what they're doing. So let's break this down. 70% of how you train is the old school way we've always done it for years. Hands-on. It's called shadow training. This is the most basic training in the world. This is where like Luke signs up. Luke starts at my restaurant. I have him shadow with Michael for like, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever the training program is. Now, what modalities does 70% hit on? Hits number one on kinesthetic because he's actually actively touching stuff, doing stuff. It's like you can read how to carry a tray full of glasses, but until you actually carry a tray with glasses, you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. You don't understand the balance. You understand where your fingers should go. You don't know how to adjust and stuff like that when you start taking glasses off. Kinesthetic is a big part of 70%. Also, visual and auditory. They have to have that kind of like, I love to give out workbooks. I love to give out training manuals. I love to give stuff that they can reference to. And then auditory, I want them to hear what I'm saying, and I go over it multiple times. The biggest thing about auditory learning is repetition. And if anyone ever says to you on your team, oh, Donald, I just can't remember stuff. I'm just not good at learning. I'll say, who's your favorite artist? Who's your favorite recording artist? And they'll pick out someone. They'll say, oh, Eminem. I'll say, what's the lyrics to Lose Yourself? And they'll start saying the lyrics word by word, verbatim. Why? Because they listen to that shit over and over and over again until they know the lyrics. So everyone can learn. Do not allow anyone on your team to say, I just can't learn. That's bullshit. That's what we actually call real bullshit. Okay. They just have different ways to learn, different rates. This is where adult learning theory will save you such energy, effort, and headache when you understand that not everyone's going to come in and be a rock star. Not everyone's going to jump to the top of that pyramid and have unconscious competence and know what to do without even thinking about it. Everyone learns at their own pace. Hashtag, write this down. Everyone runs their own race. You have to decide if the person is running a fast enough race to stay up with what you need. All right. So 70% hands-on, old school, shadow training like we normally do. 20% is active feedback. This is where at the end of the training day, you sit down with them one-on-one across the table from them. Now, one of the things I highly recommend in any kind of training program is you should give them a notebook and they should be able to take notes. I like to give out those little moleskins. And if they have any questions, they should write them down. At the end of the training day, you should sit down with them. The trainer should sit down and say, let's talk about what worked, what didn't work, and then how can we make it better for the next day. Now, active feedback, especially if they have a workbook, goes to tactile learning, auditory learning. So now I shifted from, remember, most of the time in a shadow training program, it's usually visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Now, when I have the 20% active feedback where we're sitting down actually talking about it, I'm going a little bit of visual, mostly auditory because we're talking a lot, and tactile that we're looking at notes, we're making diagrams, we're looking at stuff. I may be pulling out some stuff for reference. This is where we start getting a really fully, completely integrated training program. Right. And then that 10% is called reinforcement. This is where almost every restaurant drops the ball. You do not have a 10% reinforcement platform. Reinforcement is basically some kind of online learning vessel. Like in the accelerator program, we have online videos for all the stuff that we teach. Know Why workshop, we got audio, we got videos. We've got videos for every coaching program. I've got in my members area 40 different courses, 400 hours of coaching program or coaching material in my TRC method universe, right? People love the videos because they can learn at their own rate. They can stop it. They can replay it. They can listen to some over and over again. They can listen to, oh, that was really important. I need to go watch it again. They can listen to stuff multiple times. 10% reinforcement is going to change the game for you, right? And it also plays on pretty much 3 of the learning styles. So especially like in an audio or like a video like this, I'll say, write this down. That goes to tactile learners. You hear me talking on video, so you have the auditory part. You see me on video, or I have a slide deck like I'm doing now. That's for my visual learners. Can you see where this 70-20-10 methodology covers all 4 learning modalities? And that is the secret to having a solid training program in your restaurant. If you want to stop retraining and train your team until they get it right, and basically push them till they can't get it wrong. Remember, we don't train them till they get it right. I want them to train till they can't get it wrong, till they know no other way but my way. This is the methodology you want to follow. When I have restaurants implement this, changes their life. 2 things that'll change your life in your restaurant, and you might not even think about it. You might think, oh, marketing will change my life. Yeah, marketing is great. I love marketing. Core value card and a training program. A solid 70-20-10 training program will change everything about your restaurant. And you'll see tons of profits without even focusing on profitability. That's the scary thing about this. This is a synergistic effect where one element compounds on top of other elements. That's why the Accelerator program is so powerful, because it is stacked up to help you win the game. So training tools, what do you need to make this thing work? Well, you need some different tools, techniques for effective training. One, I always start off with some kind of assessment. So if I'm like, I was a chef for years. So like anybody came in the kitchen, the first thing we started them off with was a knife skill assessment. I gave them a potato. I gave them a couple things. I just want to see what their knife skills were. I have to have a assessment of where you are now and then understand where I need you to be. And then I have to be able to give you a training plan or program to get you from here to there. Right? So some kind of assessment skills. And every job could have an assessment. Like I could have it for leadership. I could have an assessment thing about P&Ls. I could have about prime cost. I could be testing their knowledge. If it's a server, I could have them, carry a tray full of empty plates or empty glasses. I could have them practice doing this and this. I could see how they take an order. I want to see what their kind of current skills are. So you should always have some kind of needs assessment to start them off with. And then I set the goals. All right. Hey, you're here. I need you to be over here. To do that, I'm going to plot out little steps to get you from here to where I need you to be. That's your training program in a nutshell. Micro learning is also very, very important, especially for today's people, especially the younger generation, Generation Z. Micro learning breaks down complex stuff into bite size, easy digestible pieces. One of the most powerful platforms on the market out there is called Tipsy. Tipsy is out of Australia. They have micro learning blocks where they break down like little bitty things in like 5-minute videos. All right. LinkedIn Learning also has some good micro learning blocks where you can go in and learn stuff about communication, emotional intelligence, body language, time management, small little micro learning things that allow people to get a little bite-sized, easy digestible stuff. Micro learning is very, very powerful, right? This is where we're doing short videos, maybe a quick quiz, maybe some flashcards, things like that. These are really, really ideal for a busy restaurant. A lot of people say, Donald, I'm too busy to do a training program. No, you're not. You're just giving me an excuse why you haven't done it yet. Everyone has to have a training program. Everyone has to have a 70-20-10 training program. That is the goal of today's call, my friends. And then, of course, if you can gamify it, that's great. Gamifying takes this element, makes it more engaging, more enjoyable. Could be quizzes, could be leaderboards, could be rewards for completing training modules. Gamification really taps into that competitive nature a lot of people have. Some people are motivated by competition. Some people are turned off by it. Again, if I don't have it, the people that are competitive are going to feel left out. All right. You got to be able to have a training program that hits as many different elements as possible. You should have maybe some kind of interactive or experimental learning. Interactive learning is the most powerful thing you can do with your service team and your leadership team. This is called role playing, or I call them scenarios. Role playing, especially for like young managers, is super critical. The only difference between someone who's a seasoned manager or leader who's been in the business 30 years over someone who just been a leader for 6 months is that the person who's been in the business 30 years has seen a lot more stuff. They have a lot more what we call neural pathways wired that actually tell them what to do. The brain calls these things heuristics. They're shortcuts. When this happens, I should do this, right? Your brain is wired for efficiency, whether you know it or not. To do that, we want to help them kind of start forming new neural pathways. So if I give them some softballs and say, hey, let's sit down and do some role playing. I'm an upset guest. I found a hair in my food. And then you walk up to the table and I'll tell you what my problem is. Now, of course you start nice. Remember, we go that crawl, walk, run kind of mindset. I start with that and then I start building it up, building it up, building it up. But role playing is the most powerful tool you should do. If you're not doing role playing, you need to do role playing. It will change everything for you. And then you got to have some kind of feedback loop, right? I got to give them feedback. This is working. This is not working. I want you to try this. Don't assume they're not doing it. If you think they're not doing it right, if you have a question in your head, say something. And then finally, make sure we got some mentorship going, some peer leadership. I loved like mentorship stuff. Mentorship to me was like a powerful thing. I always had someone who was experienced on my team, especially when I had my second restaurant, because I had people had been in my restaurant now for like 5-6 years when I opened my second restaurant. And they basically were like the OGs. They knew the culture, they knew the standards, they knew exactly what we expected, how we did it. And I also knew they would protect the brand. So I usually partnered up a senior person with a rookie, and I kind of had them kind of like their mentor, their guide to kind of help them out. Right? It's really, really powerful. And then make sure you have some way to track progress. I use the platform for the TRC method for the accelerator program is called Kajabi. I love it because I can track your progress. I can see what you've done, what you haven't done. If I have quizzes in there, I can see what you did as far as scores for quizzes. You need to have some way to track progress. Hashtag, write this down. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. If you can't manage it, you can't improve it. Now, some of the other tools you need a training calendar and a training program or a checklist. You should have these things. In our accelerator program, I'll give you all the templates you need. So I'll give you a template for a training calendar. I'll give you a template for daily, weekly, monthly training stuff, everything you need. And the best way to get started with a training program is basically outline it. I like to use mind maps. Mind maps, I think, are super, super powerful. So mind maps is how we basically do the training game. So everyone see my screen okay? Should be my mind map here. So this is one of my clients, and we basically did a mind map. So let me walk you around this thing real quick. Okay. So it's like a leadership certification training. And we broke it down. Like, what's the first thing they do? They do position training. So they basically do a shift as a prep cook, a line cook, expo, runner, host, busser, bartending. Then they go into some learning objectives, operations, to go into evaluations, assignments, right? They also have an online leader library that they have to go to. They basically watch some of my modules. They watch the 3 Frames to Thrive, Outstanding Mindset, Leadership Blueprint. They talk about code of conduct, standards, buy-in, talent attraction, time management modules, and they watch some emotional intelligence. Then they have a software training requirement, right? All the different software they use. They have Toast, Resi, Jolt, Margins Edge, Opus. That's their training software. Then they have vendor intros. They talk about bookkeeping, about who they talk to about payroll, who we get a hold of for all this stuff. Their account manager for their vendor. Jetro is one of their other vendors, their suppliers. And then they have a company called Ace Naturals they buy from. Right? And then they have their operations manual, operations training stuff down. So after a person does all this, then they go into week 1, daily ops, week 2, shift management, week 3, project management, week 4, leadership training. And then they go through, finally, the last thing is back office procedures, all the stuff they have to do. Mind maps are super powerful because once you start a mind map, it's easy to just add to stuff. It's a great way to visually organize your thoughts. And the beautiful thing about mind maps is that you can drag stuff around. So I love mind maps. Mind maps to me are the most powerful tool you can use. I use mind maps for I would probably say most things I use mind maps for. All my coaching programs, any program I teach has a mind map for it. Anything I'm going to do as far as a book has a mind map for it. I use mind maps all the time. That's going to help you get organized with your training stuff. Now, how do we actually get that 10% part with the videos? Well, Google Classroom. Okay. Google Classroom is one of the most powerful tools out there. There's other tools out there if you want a little bit more kind of done for you kind of service. But here's the thing I want you to remember. If you ever want your restaurant to thrive, you must create a learning culture where there's online videos for people can go in at any time and watch a video and get and learn information. Google Classroom, I love because why? It's free. You can go in and create a Google Classroom. So you can see here, I started Google Classroom. You start off with the topics, which I had like onboarding, mission, core values. I had cleaning, menu training, notes, service training, prep, culinary training. I had basic stuff, and then I had leadership. And then each time you have a module, then you go in and put stuff in there. So like this one, employee handbook. I uploaded the employee handbook, so there's a visual document that they can read. I have a video real quick, just talking to them, and I have a quiz. And all this stuff was done through Google Docs. This was Google Forms. This, you can use Google Docs or Word. And then I just shot a video on my phone real quick and just uploaded it. Google Classroom is the key. It's pretty easy to get it going, right? So you start off with this is like this is the number one way to start. You got to start somewhere. This is a great way to start. How do you get it started? You create an account first, then you outline your topics, you create material in the topics, and then in each topic, I have 3 types of content. I have written, visual, and memory. Written is usually a handout or a manual or a download. Visual is always a video. And then memory is always a quiz. Okay? Written, visual, memory. That's the most powerful thing you can do. And if you want to have a really fully integrated training system, there are 5 elements you need to have a fully integrated training system. Besides the 70-20-10, you need to have a training calendar. Right? You need to have training manuals. You need to have that training program, which is online where they can go and watch videos. They should have some quizzes, and you should have some kind of learning path, some kind of growth plan for them. If you follow these things, you will find that your restaurant is light years ahead of your competition, because most people don't train right. Well, they only train until people get it right. Remember, you don't train them till they get it right. You train them till they can't get it wrong. This is the number one thing. And one of the things you should make a commitment to right today, you should make a promise to yourself that you will not let any restaurant in your market out-train you. Your training program will be the best training program. We train more than anybody. You want to make that commitment to yourself. Our training program is so powerful, so solid, so integrated, 70-20-10. No one can out-train us. And I'll tell you this, when you become that kind of trained restaurant, when you have that kind of program, that 70-20-10 methodology in place, you also will see your turnover rate drop dramatically. And here's another side benefit. You'll be what's known as unpoachable. That means no one's going to come in and steal your team because you train more than anybody in the market. People want to grow. People want to develop. People want to be better. Give them that opportunity and they will stay loyal to you. Okay. In the science of training, training is very, very powerful in the hands of a proactive restaurant owner. You got to understand those adult learning principles. You got to implement those effective training techniques. And if you do this thing, I will tell you, you will unlock the full potential of everyone on your team. Remember that an investment in your team skills is an investment in your success and the sustainability of your restaurant. Start by building a robust training program today. 70-20-10 methodology. Watch your team, watch your business thrive. Now, before we take off today, allow me to ask you a question. If I was to drop you off out in the middle of the woods with just a water bottle, could you make it back to civilization? If I took Luke out in a Jeep and dropped him off out here blindfolded and said, good luck, Luke, make it back. Yeah, he might make it. I'm not going to bet money that he could. But here's the thing. If I drop Luke off blindfold out in the woods and say, in 5 minutes, take the blindfold off, he opens up, takes the blindfold off and sees that he has a map and a compass and he knows how to use that map and compass, Luke will make it back every single time. That's what coaching is. Coaching is, I'm going to give you the map and the coach is the compass. And for these last 14 years, my coaching programs have helped almost, I need to update this slide, almost 2,900 restaurants now, just like yours. Because here's the thing about coaching. Coaching provides two critical elements: accountability and new tools. So in that Restaurant Accelerator, you get a lot of tools added to your toolkit. You're going to get programs inside the Accelerator program, plus you're going to get other outside programs that are going to help you really, really reinforce your learning, help you develop new tools, new habits, and then give you some accountability. Right? Team 1-1 team is all about team training, know why workshops, core values, talent attraction method, food cost boot camp, stream menu makeover, restaurant marketing machine. Restaurant Track is every download I've collected over 45 years, 380 downloads. Strat Maps, profit clinics, where we start really dialing in to get that high level of profits, right? Super, super valid. And then, of course, you can get a one-on-one coaching call every other week with one of my certified restaurant coaches. It's over 200 hours, 380 downloads. And if you're stuck at 5% or lower, trust me, you need this, because this will get you to that 10% margin very, very fast. We've done it with thousands of restaurants, right? System works when you work the system. All you got to do is just speak to somebody on the restaurant growth team. I know Luke threw a couple links in the chat, right? Anybody have any questions? Any questions? I'll open the floor up. If you have a question, you can either type it in the chat or type it in the Q&A button. Either or. In the chat or the Q&A button. We're here to answer. I'm here to answer any questions. It doesn't have to be about training too. All right, let's see. How do you approach new staff members who come with loads of knowledge, but also luggage, which can stay on the way of your training? Yes. So this goes back to just setting clear expectations. So a lot of times I do have a lot of people come with stuff. One of the things we talk about in the Accelerator program is getting those core values out first. Remember, culture comes before training. So if my training's not sticking, I always say, do I have a training problem? No, we probably have a culture problem. And we have this culture of like entitlement. We have this culture of they want to be they want to be the hero and stuff like that. I have to get them inundated into the culture first. You got to get them to drink the Kool-Aid before you get them down the rabbit hole about training. And especially now, here's the other thing too. They might have some valid ideas. You want to be open to, hey, if you got a better idea, that's great. Let's talk about it. But let's talk about it in private. Set parameters, set boundaries. Like if you're training someone and they're off, they're always that person who just knows it all. Well, when I worked at, Le Chez France, in 1979, Donald, we didn't do it like that. Hey, that's awesome, man. I really appreciate your input. How about we focus on doing it like this? And then afterwards, you and I can talk and see if there might be other options for us. Okay. But let's focus on what we do right now. What sites do I use to attract new employees? I use either Indeed, but I don't use Indeed like normal people. I don't put up job ads. I do active recruiting. We teach active recruiting in the talent attraction method. And I also use LinkedIn. Now, there's some other good ones out there too, like Poached, job sites. There's some other ones. If I'm trying to find someone on a leadership team, I'll go to LinkedIn. I'll do, again, active recruiting is what we teach on how to actively find people, screen them out, actively ask them to join a conversation with you and ask them if they want to talk. Okay, job ads don't work. Traditional job ads don't work. There's a model, it's a framework that we teach in the talent attraction method. It's called the perfect job post. And you might have seen like some videos. I know we have videos out there from Michael from Bailey's Seafood. Michael from Bailey's Seafood was struggling with hiring people, and he was putting out traditional job ads, getting 4 people a week applying. That was it. I showed him this perfect job model, this perfect job post. He used it. He went from getting 4 applications a week to over 100 every single week. Mm-hmm. He has so many applications now, he doesn't know what to do with them all. But that's a beautiful spot to be, because now he can actually screen through them, pick the cream of the crop, get the best people on his team, and now he has a whole bunch of A players. Right? Job ads don't work. You got to actively recruit, and I can show you a really, really simple format. It's called the perfect job post. Change everything you do. Super, super simple. Any other questions? Is that method available on the Restaurant Growth site? On the Restaurant Growth site, no. It's only available in the Accelerator program. Because the talent attraction method is probably like 10 hours. So it's a 10-hour workshop. It's broken down into 1-hour segments, but it's a whole series of workshops. Yeah. All the stuff in the Accelerator program you see is a series of workshops. It's not like we're doing a webinar, and I love doing webinars, and we can give you some really great information. But you got to remember, a webinar is like a 30,000-foot view. If you want the real, practical tools and implementation, then you got to get down in the ground level. That's where you need a coaching program. And webinars are great. I love doing webinars. Yeah. And you're going to get 2 or 3 good pieces of gold out of here. But here's the thing. You got to have someone hold you accountable to use them, and make sure you use them the right way. That's why we always say we give you the tools, the training, and the coaching. So when you go off track or not using the tool properly, we get you back on track. That's the whole trick. Yeah. The webinar series has tons of stuff. The Restaurant Growth site. Oh my God. I was looking around there the other day, and somebody did a testimonial. It's just a wealth of gold nuggets. And here's the thing you want to ask yourself. Are you the kind of person who holds yourself accountable? That's the real trick. Number one reason you get a coach is you want accountability. You want someone to give you that kind of little swift, kick every once in a while. Like, hey, what are you doing, man? Awesome. Any other questions? Questions? I love questions.
Donald, thank you. This was, as always, very valuable. Great hour. Guys, for anybody of you who have not joined the coaching program yet, we are running a promo on that until the end of the day today. No, this is not a fake scarcity thing. It's actually real. So there's 6 spots left.
That's it.
Yeah, you can go ahead and click the link I put down in the chat box.
There might be less than 6 spots, because I think you guys sold a couple.
So. As of now, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's you guys can get half off your first month. Again, we're not going to hard sell the program on the call. No. These the webinars are awesome, like Donald said. You get a couple gold nuggets, a couple appetizers, and then if you want the full course, the coaching program's right there for you.
That's how we do it.
I love it.
Yeah, I love doing the webinars. I love speaking on stage. I love writing books. There's tons of information in any of my books too. But again, can you hold yourself accountable to extract the information and then apply it properly? That's
and people really do read those books very thoroughly. I was talking to a couple clients
I know,
who signed up for the coaching program, and they read all your books before.
Yeah.
So those are I'm looking at them right now. Those are awesome, guys. If you don't have Donald's books, make sure you get them.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate everyone.
All righty, guys. Thanks for your time today. Have a good one.
Thanks.
See ya. Bye.